Welcome back to episode 84 of the Owl Triangle podcast. With Andy Stevenson, Caoilte Barra, we're back together. Shannon joins us today. We'll talk a lot about PFL Belfast. Before we get into everything that's going on in the world of Irish mixed martial arts, we'd all like to take the time to dedicate this episode of the Owl Triangle to Thomas Delaney, a guy who would have been a big supporter of this podcast, a big supporter of severe MMA in general. We lost Thomas at the end of April. We were very saddened to hear the news. We only caught the news really late last week. If I was to say a few words about Thomas, when I started covering mixed martial arts, I got to know Thomas a lot in some dealings with our fantasy. I don't know whether you remember the fantasy league that we had, lads. So me and Thomas worked on that for a couple of years. I got to know him through that, and a die-hard Irish mixed martial arts fan. As I tweeted out, an absolute gentleman. Really cared for the athletes in the sport of mixed martial arts, the Irish athletes. A big proponent of women's mixed martial arts. We were very saddened to hear of his passing. We'll have one less comment on our YouTube comments, sadly, moving forward. He always, gave us some kudos. He will be sadly missed. He was a big part of the severe community. He was a big part of the Irish mixed martial arts community as well. I just want to offer personally, before I hand it over to the lads, my condolences to his family, and he will be sadly missed.
Yeah, well said, Ian. Heartbreaking news to hear or to learn of. And as you mentioned, like the first thing that, not the first thing that came to mind, obviously, when I found out, but like when I think of Thomas, he was all over our coverage. He was all over Severe's coverage. Every single episode I felt like that we put out, he'd have a comment of support, being like, this is the best podcast ever, or like some most of the time completely unwarranted. But and also like the fact that he had a few Twitter accounts, and the fact that he named his Twitter account Severe Groupie, kind of that always, it just stands out to me, the level of support that he gave us. And like with what we put out, it would be, the only reason we do this is so that people consume it, and he was one of the most vocal supporters that we ever had. So it's just to speak from that angle, like what he gave us was amazing. But Jesus, like, you never want to hear someone so young passing away. And I just echo your sentiments there. My heart goes out to his family. I know he had a young family. I used to always see him posting about his son, or both sons, I think, doing jiu-jitsu down in one of the gyms in Ireland.
It was SPG Tullamore, yeah.
Yeah. Just heartbreaking. So rest in peace. I mean, I never really know what to say in something like this, but he's in our hearts, he's in our thoughts, and yeah, may he rest in peace.
Yeah, I can only echo what you lads have said. He was always a great man for the chat. I'll miss a lot of the conversations just about Irish MMA, just some general things as well. And I guess in more recent years, he spoke to me quite a bit in little bits about Oscuelga as well. And I shared a lot of same interest with him as you guys would have as well. So it was, it was devastating news to hear. He was a massive advocate for Irish MMA, women's MMA, and he was a massive part of the severe group that we have as well. So he'd be sorely missed, and my sincerest condolences to the family, friends, and everyone who knew him.
This one goes out to you, Thomas. We'll be thinking about you throughout this episode and many other episodes going forward. And, it leads us into our first conversation. I think there would have been no person happier than Thomas Delaney to see what Paul Hughes did up in PFL Belfast. Massive fan of Paul Hughes was Thomas was, and Paul went out there and did the business. We'll be talking a lot about PFL Belfast on this podcast, and we're going to get right into it. Obviously, we'll talk with Liam Shannon later on. He's taken the time to come and speak with us about the event. First, before we do that, we'll share our own thoughts on the event. Andy, you were up there in person. Myself and Caoilte obviously watching from afar. a really special night in the world of Irish mixed martial arts, one that will stick out in the memory for many years to come. A night that was, the expectation of the night, was always there. And I feel you have to be able to go out and deliver. And I think that's the kind of message I want to kind of kick off the conversation, and is that, as good as Paul is and as great as the occasion was, MMA can be cruel sometimes, and you might not get the moments, and you might not work out exactly as it would have planned, but it worked out perfectly for Paul and the night as a total. I mean, Andy, being up there in person, before we maybe get into the Paul fight and get into the couple of the other fights as well, the night as a whole, a really special night, and one that kind of will stick out. Like I said, what was it like to be up there, experiencing in person? I know we've had some private conversations about it, and the atmosphere was great, the crowd was great, and obviously, we got the results as well.
It felt special, from, before the fights to the culminating moment of the night to afterwards. It felt special. Like, I went up early and went up to the Common Market, which is where Hughes was having his pre-party, and kind of ran into one of his mates, Johnny, who was organising the event there, and immediately he was like, yeah, there's 750 tickets sold for this event, all going to charity. But like, the fact that, to get that many people for the pre-party, let alone into the stadium itself, into the arena itself, is mad. There was a buzz around the city. Obviously, like, the day itself was a beautiful day, which we don't get many of in Ireland, and there just seemed to be a real positive buzz about the city. And what I found immediately was that it just felt different. Like, I've been to a lot of those Bellator shows in Dublin, and they were brilliant, but over time they just started to become, being blunt, kind of stale attempts at recreating some of the previous events. And like there was brilliant nights there with James Gallagher and Peter Queally, don't get me wrong, but towards the end of it, it was just a little bit lesser each time, I felt, and this felt like something different. Even like, I had personally never been into the SSE Arena, where the Belfast Giants play. I'd never been there before, and so, like, just to be going into a different stadium, it gave something different. Like, it just gave something different. And I feel like the crowd were boisterous from the early doors. Like, I don't think, not that I don't think, they were vocal from the get-go, right? So,
and it wasn't just the Paul Hughes crowd either, though, wasn't it? Not because, we had obviously Decky and Alan and a couple of others on the card, and you could feel the atmosphere in the arena early there. Did you feel that there in person as well, Andy?
Definitely. Like, there was a big pop for Corey McLaughlin as soon as he walked out, and I'm sure, like, Nahom Wedi probably had a bunch of supporters, but it was a predominantly northern crowd there to support the Belfast fighters, the FAI fighters, etc. Like, it was very noticeable when the FAI fighters were walking out. They got the biggest pops. Now, Decky McAleenan brought a big crowd too, and as did Alan Philpott. But it definitely felt like the lads from up there got the biggest pops tonight. But that being said, it felt like the crowd was kind of willing the Irish fighters on at every turn. And we can get into the card itself in a bit. But this was about Paul Hughes. Like, it was his homecoming moment. It felt. Let's talk about that part later on. But there was a noticeable buzz in the arena. It felt different to me. It felt like a special moment in time in Irish MMA. I wouldn't say that the card from top to bottom was the greatest card ever, but that main event and the aftermath, the walkout, the aftermath, it was insane. It was something that I'll remember for a long, long time.
Yeah, the only negative thing I'm going to say about this card, and I'm going to get it out of the way now, I had hell on earth trying to find this stream over in Canada. They couldn't watch it in the US. I know, Caoilte, you were at the time or in Indonesia. We won't give anything too much away, but I'll just say I got an assist from Caoilte in the ability to be able to watch this event as well. So credit to you, Caoilte. Did you what did you think of it watching from afar as an event?
Yeah, you have to buy, if anyone goes to other parts of the world, usually to buy a SIM card locally with a load of data, and I absolutely ran through half my data trying to watch even 4 fights, I think it was, on a perfectly legal stream, just I might add before we go any further on this one. But it was,
and that's what you said to me as well. Let's put that out there.
Exactly. Yeah, from what I got to saw while I was watching it live, it looked like a special event. I think there was a bit of issue with the sound at the start from what I could tell from the stream wise, but in terms of the event, it looked special. It was well put. It looked well put together. The fights were well matched. And just, from top to bottom, it seemed to deliver and have that little bit of spark that those kind of, as Andy mentioned, those cards in Dublin were kind of lacking a little bit in the latter ones. So it was it was a bit fresh. It was and I had that little spark. So I really liked it. I think PFL did the right thing, which is amazing to say for a change, because they don't exactly always do that. But they hit the nail on the head with that event.
One thing, I just to jump in, I would say I thought that, like, while I 1000% agree, like, it was an absolute disgrace that it wasn't shown in the US, and that it was easier for, Caoilte, where he's off in Asia, traveling to watch it than it was for someone where the largest market is.
It's not even that easy though. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
But so what I was just gonna say is, on the other side, I thought that PFL Europe, or PFL, whichever one it was, did an absolutely phenomenal job of building this to the event that it was. The likes of doing that walk, like, I thought the Hughes walk and talk with Frampton was absolutely incredible. So whoever is a genius. The way that they were able to frame that as, the big nights and the big sporting heroes that have come through Belfast and the north of Ireland. I thought that was really cool to see. And additionally, getting the lads involved down at Ravenhill with the Ulster rugby team, like, they were hitting the right marks here that made it tie into the culture and the city and the people of Belfast. I feel like they did a brilliant job of building it and then delivering on the night, but obviously with the caveat of
that's the thing. Look, we will dig it out and we will try to find that stream, because it's important to us. So, you want to be thrown. I would like to see PFL throw that. He's up there as one of the biggest stars in your organisation now. You should be freely able to watch it. Now, they got the footage out after the fact on all of the social medias. I think that was a very good thing. But it's disappointing that, we have to kind of talk about that. But obviously, Don Davis, my good buddy, he came out and he said that they were going to be broadcasting all from June, so at least they're rectifying that. Anyway, I have to be careful about what I'm saying about Don.
Could have swore Paul Hughes fought in May, but anyway.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's typical fashion. I have to be careful what I say about Donny now. He's after blocking me on social. So, but anyway, nonetheless, let's talk about the fight itself. The fight itself, not too much to talk about. 42 seconds. We had a probably 30 seconds of feeling out phase. It was a leg kick that was thrown by Bruno Miranda. It was caught by Paul Hughes. Took him off balance. Landed a left hook. Fight. Dropped Miranda. Followed up with ground and pound. I mean, I'd say, Andy, if you were to say that sequence of events in the fight to Paul Hughes before the fight, he wouldn't have believed it himself, really. Just ferocious power, ferocious accuracy. And I want to credit his patience as well. All right, you might say patience, 42 seconds. But there is a level of patience there, because you can get a moment like that can really get to you, where you might go out and you can get a little bit loose and you could be on the receiving end of a big shot. But I just thought it was phenomenal. I mean, talk about adding to your star power, like, sensational. The performance was something, the call out, the crowd reaction, declining the bonus, loads of things there, Andy, that we can discuss. I mean, the fight is only a small piece of the puzzle that worked for Paul Hughes on that night. I mean, he played his hand absolutely perfectly with everything he did, with the performance and everything that came after it.
I mean, we're talking just now about the travesty that it was that this was not broadcast in the US, and for very good reason, because we sat here, Ian, on the last episode, and you asked me, does he need a finish here to get this Usman Nurmagomedov rematch? And we were saying, well, no, he doesn't really, but it would certainly help. And by God, what he did on that night last week was literally perfect. There's nothing that could have done more. Like, I don't think the broadcast did justice to the walkout. Firstly, like the atmosphere, I had the hairs on my arms were standing up. The buzz around that arena as Foy Vance is singing him out, and as the music hits and he makes that walk, the ole ole chants were going. Like, it was it was palpable. You could literally feel the energy. And then he goes in there, you know, he's staring Bruno Miranda down. He's like, get out of the way to the cameraman. And as you said, a perfect performance. Like when I spoke to his mates, say in Common Market beforehand, they were kind of preaching this patience that you're talking about now, where they thought maybe he'll take him down. He's aware of the danger. He'll take him down and he'll finish him on the ground. And even Hughes after the fact was kind of saying, you know, I wasn't expecting it to go this way, but literally it was the very first punch that he threw. He just used his feints. He was, you know, moving in and out of distance as Miranda was trying to throw leg kicks. And literally he throws one body kick, catches it, and then the fact that he landed that punch with the same hand as he catches the kick with was the cherry on top. And then obviously we saw the aftermath, which was, we can get into in a minute. But
I'd like to just touch base with Caoilte there, because I think there's a touch of kind of Muay Thai technique there with the kick, the catch of the kick, Caoilte. And you know, you can catch the kick, and obviously the way he threw it around to take Bruno Miranda off balance was mightily impressive. Were you impressed with the way he kind of manufactured that finish?
Oh, it was beautiful. He was waiting for that kick to come. You can nearly see that Miranda was throwing it. Was like because he threw it a few times and he was waiting for his moment to pick that opportunity, and then that follow up with the counter was just icing on the top. Actually, I'm pretty sure when I was consuming the content kind of before the event, I think it was. Forgive me now, it was either Andy or Pizzi, one of what you guys did pre-fight. Someone predicted, was it a left hook? He was like, and he was dead. He was a dead cert. Left hook counter is what he predicted.
Let's say it was Andy for the crack. Anyway. I think it was Andy.
Yeah. There was whether it was that one or not, there was a few lads that were at the table at his pre-event that were like first round, but then one of them definitely called a shot. I can't remember what it was specifically, but there was a few correct predictions anyway.
I think it was a dead cert left hook is what he said. A counter left hook. I can't, because it stuck with me a little bit, but now I could be wrong. But if that is correct, fair, you know, and I must go back and look now. Fair play to whoever that is. But some great predictions from that video now, I must say.
Yeah, indeed it was. Andy, I'll bring you in just to discuss the finer details of, you know, the declining of the bonuses. There was 2 bonuses given out, I believe, to Paul. One, which he declined and wanted to give to a fighter on the undercard, and I think there was another bonus that it
was the same one basically. So like they kind of put it to him in the cage after, you know, Dan Hardy was talking to him and he's saying, you know, there's a bonus here that I'm sure you'll have a tough job. And Paul was like, well, look, I've been there. I've been that guy who's struggling only a year ago, and I don't want it to go to me right now. I want it to go to one of them. And then obviously, you know, the information came into Hardy's ear, into his earpiece, that the prize guy, the sponsor of the event and the one giving out the bonus was like, well, look, I'm going to make 2 bonuses now because you're getting one regardless. And at that point, Hughes, you know, he cannot put a foot wrong these days. Phenomenal. He says, no, I'm going to donate this to charity, the same charity, mental health charity that the pre-party was in aid of as well. So yeah, it's phenomenal. The man is on fire inside and outside of the cage.
Cannot put a foot wrong. All credit to Paul Hughes. You know, a fantastic ambassador for Irish mixed martial arts and the face of Irish mixed martial arts right now as it stands. Really looking forward. I'm not even going to waste any time talking about what's next, because what's next is the Nurmagomedov fight. It's got to happen. And I mean, he's done everything in his power to make it happen. We'll talk to Shando about that a little bit later on too. I mean, we gotta
give credit to that fucking call out too.
It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, that's exact. Like, I mean, you just, like, everything went right. It's just phenomenal to watch.
Usman Nurmagomedov.
yeah, and there's no way he didn't know Paul Hughes was fighting too. I guarantee he was watching. So,
would you reckon that was Ali or was that Usman?
That's the 2 comments. That's 100% Ali all the time. That's always it.
Both comments or just one?
Oh, probably both of them. Knowing Ali, yeah. He's it's hard to keep up with that fella. But let's talk about the rest of the card. Unless, you know, any final points on Paul, or shall we move on? Let's move on to the rest of the card. Home main event: Lewis McGrillen versus Alan Philpott. You know, round 1. You know, actually, let's talk about the moment it was for Philpott too. A lovely moment for him to get the chance to kind of come out and fight again. in front of his home crowd. It was going to be a tough fight. It always was going to be a tough fight. But he made a tough fight out of it for Lewis McGrillen, Caoilte, before the finish ultimately came in round 2. I mean, round 1 was close. I thought it was beautiful space and distance management from Alan Philpott, not to let McGrillen close, not to allow him to shut off the cage, and landing those body kicks as well is perfect for a guy who's looking to come in and land those big hooks. I thought his game plan was perfect in round 1, and then round 2 obviously McGrillen kind of turned it up a little bit, got the fight down, and ultimately got the rear naked choke halfway through round 2. What did you think of the fight overall, Caoilte?
Yeah, I thought it was brilliant after the first round. I was, because at first, I think if you look at it, you would, for a lot of people, they would have thought that Alan Philpott was nearly getting fed to the PFL prospect that they're really, really backing. But he was showing the Philpott that we all know can show up in the cage in that first round in particular, because the way he was timing his shots and the game plan was top notch, to be honest with you. He was having a lot of success. I don't think he had earned really the respect of Lewis McGrillen as much, despite how a lot of the shots he was landing, because McGrillen just kept coming forward as he does. But he was landing some good shots. Some of the counters were good, as you mentioned. The body work, that knee up the middle was really, really threatening quite a lot. I think he landed it. I can't remember if it was first or second round now. You'll have to forgive me. But that was really threatening, nice, because Lewis McGrillen does tend to dip his head when he's throwing some of those massive shots. And I thought that could have nearly, he could have gotten very lucky with that at some point as well. If one of those landed clean. But overall, I thought Alan Philpott put on a great display, and I think it was enough to even actually earn himself another shot under the PFL if they do come back, or even if it's one somewhere around Europe. Because he put on a good performance against one of the top prospects in PFL, and really gave him a good fight and had a lot of success over the course of the 2 rounds, or as long as it went on.
Yeah, indeed. Andy, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, like this was always going to we knew this was going to be a really tough fight for Philpott, but what we said going in was that what I said going in was that you'd be very foolish to count him out. And I think that's what we saw. Like, I think he did a lot better than a lot of people gave him credit for in that opening round. But ultimately it was, look, I thought it was brilliant to see him fighting back in Northern Ireland. Firstly, because I thought he's been calling for that for so long. The last time he fought in the North was 2014, I believe, fighting for he won the Akuma Bantamweight Championship versus who was it against? I'm forgetting now. I had it in the notes.
McAleenan, is it?
No, McAleenan. Yeah, James McAleenan. But like, so what a moment for him to get that. But then, look, just unfortunate for him. But I mean, this is what Lewis McGrillen does. He's a very, very talented fighter, and as we've seen a good few times with Alan, he zigs when he should have zagged maybe, and he gets caught in a sub. I thought he did a great job of defending the choke the first time, so he got taken down in the second, and McGrillen got the body triangle. I thought Philpott did a really good job of defending that first time around. And then he used the old Derek Lewis just stand up defense to get out of it at one point. But then the second time he got taken down, like there was some good. He kind of went for a guillotine. There was some scrambles, but McGrillen ended up on top, and then he got the body triangle again. And unfortunately, Philpott, I think, went to defend or to try and strip the foot or to break the body triangle, and at that point McGrillen just said, right, I'll take your neck there, and that was it. So not the ending that Philpott would have wanted, but I thought the fight was a fun one. It was very entertaining for the fans.
Very entertaining.
Yeah,
very entertaining. Yeah, and hopefully Alan does get another crack there in the PFL if they did bring a show back to Belfast. I think he's the perfect fit for a card like that. Look, obviously we're going to concentrate most on the Irish-based fighters here. We'll have to shout out Conor Hughes' knockout though, lads. Jesus, that was frightening. It was frightening. My goodness. It
was scary. Like, yeah. He knocked him out, and I was just looking at his opponent, being like, he is not moved. Like, he didn't move for a solid couple of minutes, even with oxygen, which is pretty terrifying. I know, like, on the broadcast they probably could cut away, but fucking hell.
I had a similar experience with Bruno Silva in the Montreal card too, when he ate the elbow from Mark Andrew Barrio. He got taken away in a stretcher, was not moving either. And, all night you're kind of you have that uneasy feeling, don't you, when something like that happens. It just shows the reality of how dangerous it is, and how much people are putting on the line there when when you see those kind of knockouts, and I'm glad, Sebastian DeFranco was, he's good after it. Obviously, he's not fully good, I guess, after getting knocked out like that, but he is he got back to consciousness, and he's doing fine now, gladly. And yeah, it's just scary knockout there from Conor Hughes, and one of the knockouts of the year it could be. Let's talk about Decky McAleenan, who went in there against Gino van Steenis. It was the start and kick-off of the lightweight bracket. A razor close fight here. And a great walkout too, I have to say, for Decky McAleenan. What a choice, the L triangle. Got the crowd going. And Andy, the fight was a close one. It was 29-28 on all three judges' cards. I think Van Steenis got a good start to this fight, took round one. Decky came back phenomenally in round two. Hurt Van Steenis, followed him down. I think that's the story of this fight. I think he followed him down when maybe if he had let him back up, he might have put him away. It's easy in hindsight to say those things. Round three, similar enough to round one, but a closer round. I think, Decky was threatening off his back, and ultimately there can't be too much kind of pushback on the decision here. I think it was a fair result. Andy, what did you make of it all together?
Yeah, I agree that the walkout was class, and I think that Decky probably be frustrated looking back at that fight. I thought he looked like in the second he looked brilliant. I thought he looked great in there, but yeah, I think he may be kicking himself for following Van Steenis down, because he looked like he had him really hurt. Like he cracked him with a big right hand, and there was kind of that delayed reaction where it didn't drop him immediately. It was more that kind of the brain catching up with the body, and Van Steenis kind of dropping back and dropping back to the mat because he was in a bad way. And look, there's always a what if. Like, what if he had kind of separated, step back up and said, right, get it back on your feet? Would he have finished him on the feet? But it's like
Shawnee Sheehan says, it's easy to be the general after the battle.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. So I think, it was an interesting one watching from cage side, because it was this brilliant moment for Decky where he's been fighting for not a lot of money for a long time, so I would hope that he's getting paid a bit more now that he's in the PFL. He's always an entertaining fighter, and then I thought I was wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong, but he looked like he was taking his gloves off. He was obviously heartbroken. He was being consoled by his coaches, and for a second I thought he was retiring, and there was kind of that consensus on press row where it was like, oh, is he about to retire here, like after kind of just getting this opportunity? And he didn't, and I'm glad he hasn't, because I feel like there's a lot of opportunities there for Decky. I feel like there's a load of fun matchups you can put him in, regardless of the European tournament. So I think the fact that Dan Hardy had him wait and interviewed him despite the loss in the cage and showed him the level of respect, it shows what PFL think of Decky, and he'll be back. Like, I'm sure he'll be back in some more big fights. He got a brilliant reception from the crowd, and yeah, like had things gone slightly different in that second round, we could be talking about an amazing finish and brilliant debut for Decky in the PFL. Yeah,
very well said. I'm sure you would kind of echo most of those sentiments as well, Caoilte.
Yeah, look, it's how it goes, especially in these tournaments when you're going up against some of these top lads. You can look, as Andy said, you can look back and you can have a lot of what ifs, but overall, he still showed what he can do inside there, despite the result. That second round in particular, where he dropped him, thought if the legs went from under Van Steenis, even I got a little bit excited at that bit. I was like, wow, this could be the moment, like nearly a turning point for him, a turning point in the career. And here he is. That's quite late in his career, but look, that's just how the fight game goes. And I hope that he stays inside the PFL cage, gets a few quid, and gets some good fights, as Andy said as well, because he's a fun fighter to watch, and he's honest as well. I love how he speaks, how he presents himself publicly, all these things. And then in the cage, he's just straight up violence when he's in there. So hopefully we see him back in there sooner rather than later, and it's inside the PFL cage.
Yep, indeed. Claudio Pacella picked up a great win over Gavin Hughes. I've been really impressed by Claudio in his last couple of fights. Won on the judges' scorecards by unanimous decision 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. And, you know, Gavin Hughes, a heavy hitter. You have to be careful when you're fighting a guy like that. And I think Pacella, he kind of handled that fight. I'll just kind of give a little bit of my take on this and we move on. Obviously, we're a little bit tight for time. I just think it's a very, very impressive performance from him. Landed the better shots throughout the fight. I mean, no arguments here, obviously, on the judge scorecards easily. I think, you know, his use of combinations against a guy who was looking to try and one hit quit, it worked perfectly, and not easy to fight a guy like that. Like I said, but he passed that test with flying colours. And like I said, last couple of fights, I think he dropped one a couple of fights ago. He's been racking up a good win streak there now, has Claudio Pacella, and obviously fighting out of SBG. You know, there's a couple of big fights ahead for him as well, Andy. But I will stop and ask your opinion of the Sheriff. Owen Sheridan is back. You know, it's great to see him back. It's great to see him competing. And my goodness, did he, you know, it was, if Paul Hughes was number one talking point of the night, this was definitely number two. A tremendous performance against Malachy Edwards. Two absolute giants. I'd have a crick in my neck looking out at those two boys. But it was a great performance and, you know, a serious knockout from Shero as well, eh?
Yeah, it was like, it was mad. The power that he has in his hands is ridiculous. Because I thought, like, he dropped Edwards quite early. Edwards obviously started strong, like they were kind of exchanging some low kicks. He started very aggressively, and Shero, it looked on first glance that he had landed a huge right hand, but he was actually going backwards. It was a check left hook, and like I don't think he even had full torque and like kind of in his body going into it. So the fact that he dropped him with that to begin with, and then, you know, he starts to grapple with him, eventually decides, nah, fuck this, I'll separate. And literally the first combination that he throws then is a huge right hand that connects, followed by another left hook that catches him on the way down. Like, it was a ferocious performance. That's the exact way to catch the eye of the matchmakers. Like, they should be looking at him immediately for some sort of tournaments. Like, that type of style is very, very entertaining to watch. But what a way to announce yourself, really. I know he's fought before for the PFL, but like, what a way to announce yourself truly in the promotion on a spotlight event in Europe. You know, a big night for Irish fighters up in Belfast. And yeah, the sheriff claims another victim, the most dangerous man in Ocean Beach, Ibiza. Could you imagine getting a clatter off of him if you bump into him?
Yeah, Jesus, you could get an elbow on the dance floor big time with Shero. But if you don't get a cowboy hat for himself soon, he's missing out. A cowboy hat. And
he has one. I think they were in the pre-fight photos. He was
looking. Yeah, I did see him. Yeah. He needs to bring that with him.
Putting it on Paul Hughes at one point, I saw.
I love it. Quilch, I remember talking to Shero. We were at Cage Legacy 23 last year, and he was chomping at the bit there to get in and fight. It's obviously, you know, this is not going to do him too much favors in trying to get matched up. I don't think there'll be too many people lining up, but he had such a difficulty getting matched up. It's great to kind of see him in there. I think him being with the PFL, I think we'll see regular turnarounds for him on the European circuit before, you know, Shero has the ability to make waves on the European scene and then move over to the PFL world stage too, without a doubt. Like what Andy said, he's got the style, he's got the power, and he's an animal at 172. Like, he's fought at middleweight before. He's a big lad, and I'm very excited for the future of Owen Sheridan. Yeah,
it's fights like this that don't make you surprised that he was struggling to get a fight when we were chatting to him anyway. He's huge. It's a nightmare for lads like these big, tall, lanky lads that hit like trucks. No one wants to fight them. Absolute nightmares. Like, the type of genetics you must have to be 6'5" and a welterweight and hit that hard is absolutely obscene. That performance just highlights that, because I can't imagine that would be lining up afterwards. But the good thing about PFL is they guarantee you those fights. They have a roster. You can get matched up. You're not bouncing around the regional scene looking for lads to step up. You have kind of a direct path as to what's going to happen. And I imagine PFL are going to look at that and be like, all right, let's back him. Because you see you see it in fighters that they have, and they start getting behind quite a bit. Patrick Habirora is one of the ones I can highlight quite significantly in that lightweight division. They're backing him big time. For two reasons. He gets a good following. He's a likable dude, and he can knock people out, and that's kind of what they that's what they want. Owen Sheridan's no different. He's got that fan-friendly style and can bring eyes to the show. So looking forward to see how they kind of promote him and match him next.
Yeah, indeed. Andy, I'll send it over to you for the opening fight of the night. A little bit of bad blood here, a rematch from the amateur ranks. Oh no, do you know what? I've skipped by Seán McCormac. How dare I do that? Let's talk Seán McCormac first, who obviously lost the unanimous decision to Hyder Khan. It was a catchweight fight. Unfortunately, Khan missed weight by a massive 4
big miss,
like a huge miss. So that kind of, you're starting the fight automatically at a little bit of a disadvantage there. But Seán did start well. But it was the takedowns of Khan, I think, throughout this fight that, he didn't really want and have too much interest in standing and exchanging with McCormac, and for valid reason too. McCormac was landing good shots on the feet. I think the defining factor in the fight, Andy, I'm sure you would agree, was the takedowns of Khan and being able to control where the fight went too.
Yeah, I thought Seán looked really, really good early on. I thought like the kicks he was landing, he seemed to be winning the striking exchanges from what I saw anyway, and you're right, like it was as time went on, Khan just seemed to be having more and more success, albeit Seán had his moments obviously throughout the fight, but it just seemed like Khan, his pressure, his grappling was what won him the fight, and ultimately that's the way it played out. But I think this is, obviously you don't go into a fight wanting to lose, you want to win, and especially on a night when your teammate is topping the bill. It's this big kind of night for FAI. But at the same time, Seán McCormac coming back from a slew of injuries, hadn't fought in 2 years. I think the fact that, getting that opportunity, getting those 15 minutes in, Hyder Khan, when we looked at this going in, he was a serious record on him, and he's after coming off that kind of highlight reel, finished in the previous fight where he broke the guy's arm with the kick. So it was a tall order to begin with from McCormac, and while it didn't go his way, I do think he'll gain a lot of experience from this, and just the fact that he's back, like he's back fighting. So I hope that he manages to stay injury free and that we see him compete more regularly, because I'd be interested to see, let's see what he looks like in a year's time if he's fought 3 or 4 times, and take a look at that point. But yeah, a tough loss for him, I'm sure, but at the same time, there's some positives to take from it, I think. Indeed
there is. Let's talk now about Corey McLaughlin versus Nahom Wedi. McLaughlin won the fight 30-27, 29-28 on the judges' scorecards. Obviously took the first 2 rounds for me. I think Wedi kind of did come back a little bit in round 3. Caoilte, what did you make of this fight? Obviously, like I said, there was a little bit of bad blood coming into this fight. Nahom Wedi, obviously very outspoken and not afraid to say what he thinks. Was confident coming into this one. Didn't work out as he would have liked, and it was a fantastic win for Corey McLaughlin. I want to hold my hand up and said, I said on the last episode with Andy, I thought that that Nahom would go out there and get the job done, but I thought Corey McLaughlin looked unbelievable here and performed unbelievably as well. And big moment here when you're coming against a guy who you fought before. Things didn't go your way. I just thought it was a tremendous performance here from McLaughlin.
Yeah, I didn't know they fought before, but Corey, yeah, absolutely fantastic. That's he came into that, a lot of pressure as well. He lost in his pro debut, split decision against Mario Di Stefano, another top prospect on the Irish scene, then goes in there against yet another one in Nahom Wedi, and fair play to him, hats off. And the performance he delivered was, it was top drawer. I will say a very close fight. Very enjoyable from start to finish, close from watching it from afar, that is. I did have it scored to Corey McLaughlin. I think Nahom Wedi wasn't too pleased with the result, but I did. I
don't think there can be any arguments about the result. So, and I want to say they did not fight before. I don't know. I pulled that one out of my ass there. So,
I don't think that's true.
I knew. Fair play to you. You should have just called me out straight away.
I was going to wait for my turn to speak, and then
I'll call myself.
He fought Di Stefano, who was his teammate.
Yeah, I knew there was a mention of a previous fight in the build-up anyway, so apologies, guys. Apologies. Well, they did fight anyway. They did fight at the PFL, and McLaughlin got the bragging rights there. But what were your thoughts on it, Andy?
I thought it was a really good fight. I thought there was brilliant energy from the crowd to begin with. Again, I love a bit of bad blood, bit of domestic violence.
You do not.
On press, I'll say it was a fight that looked very different to me watching it live versus watching it back. I thought on press row that it was a clean 30-27 for Corey McLaughlin. Now, I watched it back. I thought that the first round very, very close, but I would give it to McLaughlin. Very much nip and tuck round. There wasn't a whole lot of significant damage from either fighter. It was they're feeling each other out in the feet. The second round I thought was the clearest round of the three. I gave that one to McLaughlin, and then the third one in person, it was very difficult to see what Wedi was actually landing. And I watching there, I was like, I felt at the arena, I was like, that's the cleanest round for Corey that there was in the fight. There was some people that were even, I heard them talking about 10-8s. Now, I didn't agree with them, but I was like, this is a very clear Corey round. But then I watched it back there, and Wedi lands a lot of elbows, he cuts them up, like some beautiful elbows off the clinch, step in elbows, the kind of the Anderson Silva one that they were highlighting on the broadcast. But I guess it comes down to when you're looking at it from a judging perspective, the last 90 seconds of the round, Corey does, he gets sliced open, a lot of cosmetic, a lot of superficial damage, but then he does take him down after the fact, and he lands a lot of shots. Now, some of them are landed on the guard, but then there was some big elbows that split through, and while it didn't, open Wedi up, they were quite damaging. So I guess that's what the judge, I know one judge or two judges gave it to McLaughlin, one gave it to Wedi. So I could see that being a toss-up round. But yeah, I think the right guy won the fight. I know, as he probably should. Wedi's quite a boisterous character, and I feel like he plays into it a bit as well. And he was kind of saying, the judges must have been Corey's uncle and all this stuff, because he was giving the media a bit of death on media, which I didn't really on media day, which I didn't really understand, because it's kind of in his benefit to engage with them. But I can say that I'm from Dublin. I have no relation to Corey McLaughlin, and I scored the fight for him, albeit it was a very close fight and a very entertaining one, I thought. And look, I'm looking forward to seeing both lads back in the PFL cage.
100%. That was kind of wraps us up in the card. Other big news on the night, obviously, was the signing of Caolan the Don Loughran. It was rumored it was broken by I'm forgetting it was carry on there and I'll find it. It was Caolan McNamara. Caolan McNamara,
Caolan McNamara. Right. He was a lovely fella. Met him on the night.
Yeah,
lovely
fair play to him. He broke the news early in the night. Obviously the Don went out and spoke to the media after it. I think it must have been very disheartening for him to leave the UFC, but he seems very upbeat, and this is a new challenge, a fresh beginning for him, Andy. And I think it's a good move for the old Don to go over to the PFL. A couple of big fights there. Obviously, they're talking about the McGrillen fight. There are lots and lots of big fights there for the Don, and lots of big nights ahead as well. I mean, there's no better man to sell a card or top a card as well, other than the Don. And maybe it would have been what a night it would have been if they had have managed to get him onto this card, but it didn't happen. But we'll see him soon enough, I would say.
I tell you what, he had a pep in his step. Like when that news went out on Twitter about the roster watch and him being no longer on the roster, it was kind of like this morbid, oh Jesus, this is awful. And I can understand why
it was. I thought,
it makes no sense. But now when I heard him speaking after the fact, like I was just thinking, is this a knock-on effect of the Paul Hughes' signing and success with the PFL, where Caolan's kind of talking about the conversations that he'd had with the UFC. He'd come to the end of his 4-fight deal versus conversations that he'd had elsewhere, and he feels like he's being treated a lot better now without disparaging the UFC or anything like that. Now, whether that's him saying that after it not going well with the UFC or not, I don't know. But I think like he seems very excited here. He seems to be being treated well. I love that they had him cage side. I was looking at him from afar. It looked like he was confused as to why he wasn't being brought into the cage. There was some confusion over that because I think there was a plan, or at least, you know, maybe there was plan A, B, C, and they didn't know which way they were going to go with. But it seemed like there was a plan that may have been taking place to get him into the cage and square off with McGrillen afterwards, which would have been pretty fucking cool as a way to announce him. But yeah, like there's a lot of entertaining fights there. There's rematches there, as we've discussed already on previous episode, that he can look at here with Hadley and others, Lapalus as well. So it's going to be very entertaining, or it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. When do we see Caolan Loughran make his PFL debut? And yeah, he's like, from speaking with him, he certainly doesn't see this as, you know, a step back in his career or anything like that. And when you look at what Paul Hughes has done and the money he's making now and the success that's been brought to him, well, then you'd feel hopeful about, you know, if PFL can, you know, close the gaps on their US broadcasting deals and all that stuff, then there's certainly opportunity here for Caolan Loughran.
I'll fucking stand in there, lads. We'll make the deal happen in North America and be the representative over here, and we'll sign it off. Let's make it happen. Caoilte, obviously, what would you think? Lewis McGrillen versus Caolan Loughran, is that the fight to make?
Yeah, I'd love the Jake Hadley one again, personally. But I think if you want to go straight out, you know, straight off the marks or whatever. Jesus Christ, my brain's gone from all this traveling, lads. But
that's all good, Caoilte, man.
If you're going straight off, I think I think Lewis McGrillen, big fight, either. And you know what? Lewis McGrillen wanted PFL Manchester. I think there's a good story to be sold there. I think the build-up will be exciting. Got Liverpool versus Manchester, Ireland versus England. The two boys love to chat shit, let's be real, before fights, and I think it'll be so entertaining. Yeah, I think that's the fight to make. It markets itself. It'd be perfect if they were to go ahead and do it. Otherwise, I really like the Jake Hadley one, both of them with the two of them having full camps to prepare for one another. Either of those, personally. And then I think winner of the fight to go into the World Tournament at the start of 2026.
Indeed. Well, I think now is about a good time. We've shared our thoughts. I think we should head on over and hear what the main man himself, Liam Shannon, had to say about the big night up in Belfast, Paul's for performance, and the rest of the FAI performances as well. So let's head on over to Shando and hear what he had to say about the big night up in Belfast.
And now we are joined. Well, we're not joined by anyone yet because we're joined by Liam Shannon, but he has said that he will only come in if we start chanting his name or so. So there's a new chant going around. Oh, Shando. Oh, Shando. Oh, Shando. He made us do.
Oh, here he is. Look at this.
Oh, it's all good. I thought I heard someone chant my name. It's all good, lads.
Oh my God.
Someone call me.
Best entrance we've had.
The celebrations are still going.
Business is booming. Hughes, this is this the prize guy that's giving you these bonuses?
That, what I call the money went to charity last week. But just I think it got lost in my bank account. The rest of my bank account, this fella table say.
Liam Shannon has joined the show on the L Triangle. Liam, you're looking fantastic. I mean, clearly celebrations are in full swings at the moment for Team Hughes.
Oh yeah, so it's a great week to be alive. Great weather as well in Ireland, and I think it's obviously a long-term dream come true for Paul and as the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, we're a week removed now from it. Like, but what has it been like the past week for you guys in the team?
Well, to be honest, we're just going about looking at cars and trading about and looking at watches, Rolexes. It's a lot of shopping just this week.
Yeah, you're not shopping in pennies anymore. No, I see Off-White.
No,
that looks pretty expensive.
Yeah, we're just doing what I call we're doing the Off-White stuff, and that's all. Any Off-White, everything, trunks, socks, everything.
How much does that dollar sign cost you there? That dollar necklace there?
I'll just talk about that's the praise guy. He donated that to me last week because of my coaching skills. So a big thank you to Paul Horgan for it.
Oh, this is hilarious. It's one of the grandest entrances that we've ever had for an interview, Shando. Unbelievable stuff. But no, we were chatting about the night that was up at PFL Belfast just a week ago and how special it was, and the build up to it, the event itself. A really special night for obviously Paul, yourself, and the gym FAI as well. You must be obviously you're reveling in all of the success as we can see. But a fantastic night. I could just summarize it in a certain way.
Yes, that was a great night because obviously with 3 guys fighting, all 3 in different parts of their careers. And what I called it was a highly successful night on all 3 stories, to be honest. Obviously, Corey getting a win over a real good opponent, coming off his debut loss, learned an awful lot, coming up against a guy who is going to be something big in the future too. Nahom Wedi's got a massive future, but so is Corey, and I think Corey stepped up and showed up and showed people what we have always said he's capable of. He's still learning. He's only in MMA 4 years. God knows how high he's going to get as well. Then I went on to Seán. Seán obviously had to be a mixed start in his career, taking last minute fights and that type of stuff. And guy missed weight by 5 or 6 pounds. Already a catch weight fight. Stood up, and I think if Seán had he has been out for 2 years, if he had a bit more he had a bit more, what would I say, playing time. You know what I mean? If he was in there more regular, then he definitely would have put that guy away. That guy was there to be beat. We were kicking ourselves afterwards because I think we all knew that guy was there to be beat. And obviously Paul, what can you say about Paul? It's absolutely pitch perfect performance.
Liam, we'll get into each of their performances because it was a huge night for you guys, for the team, and obviously it culminated with Paul. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But we've been to the Bellator Dublin shows many times. The Bellator now PFL obviously. It's centered around Dublin. It's primarily centered around SBG, and to me, this felt like something different up in the SSC arena. It felt like I guess a new era, maybe if you want to call it that. It was a big night for you guys and the team. did you feel that what did this night mean for FII? I know it's Paul at the top, and really the night was Paul's. But what was it? What did it mean for you guys as a team at FAI?
Yes, obviously, I think it was a good platform to announce Fight Academy Ireland on the world stage and showing that we've got a lot of talent. And we are the biggest club in Ireland at the minute. Again, regarding talent coming through, homegrown talent especially. The coaching I've always said for many years is it's the top of the food chain. But again, it's everything. You got to plant the seeds, and it takes time for the trees to grow and flourish. So it's even now, you get a few guys are coming through and starting to blossom, but there's so many people coming behind them guys. You're not going to see the real fruits of our labour sitting maybe for another 5 years. And that's the exciting part. It's not that we've got a one-hit wonder on Paul, but there's a whole team. We keep saying to everybody, you just don't understand the level of talent in every weight division. There's guys joining us from everywhere because when they come up and they see the level of coaching and the level of training partners, they stay. And again, we're just going to get bigger and better, and we're planning to take it all over.
Was it frustrating for you at all when the shows were primarily based in Dublin?
Yes, because obviously, at the end of the day, a show, because we run shows ourselves, you got to fill it out. You got to obviously make sure that the promotion believes in you and sells it out. It's not a flop. So the first thing you got to do is put bums on seats. The easy way to do that, the tried and tested method, is get local fighters on. So that's, and again, obviously, and they need local fighters to win. So that's the problem, is that they think that they went there too often to not play that card. After a while, obviously there were a lot of mismatches and a lot of guys that you only watch certain people so many times, even if you are a big fan of them, to see that actually. Sure, they're fighting again. They're going to get another win. All of a sudden, it's just it's turned into a boxing scene more than anything. So I feel that there in Dublin, they stayed a wee bit too long. At the start, I totally understand it, but after a while, then there's so much talent in Dublin itself. Obviously, you've got that Team KF, you've Team Reno, and loads of other clubs down the south. I think they definitely should have ventured out a lot earlier than they have now.
Do you feel like this is the start? Like, obviously, like, what a way to start the PFL's kind of entry to Belfast with that moment for Paul. Like, it's going to be a hard act to follow, but like, do you feel like this is the start of many more events in Belfast? Is that your expectation? And you know, to your point there, and I would agree that the events did, you know, we talked about it earlier on in the episode, that they started to feel like they were trying to replicate previous success, and it just wasn't quite the same. So how do PFL avoid falling into that same pitfall up in Belfast?
Well, obviously, the north is a lot denser than down the south, so obviously the talent up here is probably, it isn't as many variety of clubs. But again, we've got enough people, enough variety to keep them taking over for many years. Don't worry about that. But again, I'd like other clubs to be involved. Definitely, like there's other clubs. Like that's why Cage Conflict as well is started, because we're trying to push Irish pros and get them from the amateur to the professional scene and push them on their careers. So it would be very good that the other clubs in the north started pushing their amateurs into the professional scene, which I think that's the best way, rather than sticking to the IMAF type of route, because I think all of a sudden you become a lifetime amateur.
You mentioned a number of your fighters who were on the show, and maybe we'll kind of start from the start and work our way up to Paul. Corey, as you mentioned, had a really, really tough fight in his hands here. He was a heavy underdog on the bookies odds anyway, coming into this fight against Nahom Wedi.
Me pay their money.
You know, I've seen I've heard Paul talking a lot about Corey, kind of spotlighting Corey as one of the guys who'll be there after training. He'll be there on the sessions where maybe others aren't showing up to. Why Corey McLaughlin? Why was he put in that spot, and why did you take the fight against Nahom Wedi?
Well, I think that we gave them a number of names. We gave them maybe 4 or 5 more names. Just that it didn't match with who they were looking for at that particular time. I think Corey was given that opportunity, to be perfectly honest, because I don't think that his opponent rated him. He was beaten by a teammate, and I think that he thought this is going to be a handy fight, to be honest. So I think people were thinking Corey was getting fed to the lions.
Paddy McCarry's fight, it was a weird thing backstage where all of a sudden there was kind of a bit of a commotion. We were doing interviews and the news came through, Paddy's fight is off. That's obviously got to be a very difficult one for him and you guys as a team. Like there's nothing you can do about it at this, the opponent didn't pass a medical. But what was it like backstage when you got that news?
Oh, it was dreadful. That's the best I've ever seen Paddy in his life in terms of preparation, work ethic. Everything was just peaking at the right time. And again, it's a wee bit like Paul, like last week. Anybody you want to put him in there in Dublin that particular night, that they were never getting out alive. But some good news with Paddy, probably a bit exclusive. He's signed his contract yesterday, so he'll be fighting in Rome, in Cage Warriors in Rome. So you don't worry, you'll not be waiting too long to see Paddy out again.
Excellent, nice exclusive there. Anyway, thanks for that, Shannon. Yeah, that would be great. I think it's good that he's getting out in Rome. That was kind of hinted at as well. I think the future is bright for Paddy. And where you're seeing him go in his career over the next year or so, would there be goal for Paddy and yourselves as a gym to go for the Cage Warriors title, or would you be looking for that opportunity on Dana White's Contender Series?
To be honest, you know yourselves that the golden goose for many years was to win that Cage Warriors belt, and then it's like that's the golden ticket into the UFC. That's proven that to be the case in many years now. So the title doesn't hold as much leverage as it once did, and I'd be keen to get in and get out of that division and get out of the promotion as quick as possible and start making waves in the worldwide scene. So yeah, definitely a good performance here in Rome. And definitely Contender Series, yeah. I wouldn't be hanging about for the belt.
Liam Paddy, of course, was due to compete in the Cage Warriors Dublin show, which I completely just... there's too many shows going on right now that I've been going to that I'm getting them all confused. But when I think of a guy like Paddy, and when I look at what PFL just did in Belfast, and I think, Graham Boylan told us after that Dublin show that they're coming back. He didn't say where they're coming back to in September, but he said that they're coming back somewhere. you know, my head does also go to the likes of a guy like Paddy, where it's like, you know, if PFL are having the success up in Belfast, well, what's to stop the likes of a Cage Warriors putting on a show up there? Obviously, you know, of course, Reese had that amazing moment when he won the title a couple of years ago, but like, I could also see Paddy as being a headliner for Cage Warriors if they were to put on a Belfast show.
Yes, of course. Paddy is he headlined our Fiala show a few years ago with 4,000 people in the Falls Park. He and that was his debut against a real tough opponent. Paddy's an entertainer. He's an exciting fighter, and he's like he really is so talented. I feel without a doubt you could build a whole promotion around him, a whole what I call like a Cage Warrior show around Paddy McCrory's headlining. But again, like we've got many guys that are filling the card up. It's interesting because obviously that's at the end of the year. They're talking about October, November, time to come back to Belfast, and a lot of our fighters who are in contract with them all kind of run up around or just before the same date. So we'll see, because we want to push our guys on. We need to get them active. They've had a lot of opportunities missed because they've been saying the Cage Warriors. So I'm keen to either get them big fights on Cage Warriors and press on, or else get them released and moving on. But regarding Paddy, yeah, if it does, well, we'll see what happens. Cage Warriors in Roman, a few weeks, a good performance, and we'll move on from that, and we'll see where it leads us to. I would ideally not want him in Belfast. I want him on a Contender Series.
Did Paddy give you that? Did Paddy give you that thing that you're smoking there, Liam?
Yes, yeah.
Did he give you that? Yeah? I was wondering why you were so relaxed there. All right, yeah.
PC Carl gave me it. I feel like I'm living with PC Carl for the weekend.
So it's robbed, is it?
The King of Dublin, walking about drinking cappuccinos.
Liam, I don't want to just skip on from something you mentioned there, and if you don't want to go into detail, that's grand, but you said that there were some opportunities missed. Is there any specifics you can kind of give us on the opportunities that were missed as a result of contracts and stuff like that?
Well, again, obviously, if we're just talking about PFL literally says, give us the list of all your fighters you want on the show, and the first thing we had to do was rule everyone who had contracts with promotions. So that was very frustrating, because our guys here who are at the stage where they could push on the likes of the PFL show are tied up in Cage Warriors. It's not good enough that we're getting one fight a year with Cage Warriors. And I've stressed my frustration with Eoin on that a number of occasions. Like at the minute, we've got Matt Elliott in training camp to fight in Rome. Owen McDonald has been in training camp for 4 or 5 months now, waiting to get a professional fight. All these guys need a push on. Obviously, Scott Harvey, he was offered an EFC title fight last week. And we couldn't push on that. Just in general, the fights aren't coming fast enough for us. So I feel that obviously Cage Warriors are one of the best promotions to work with, but we need to be activity. It's hard because they've got a lot of people saying, but I think also that we're taking some of the harder fights just to get fights. Like Matt Elliott took on your man Baranda over in London, and Matt was a heavy underdog. That guy's in the MMA Academy. We were there to lose. Same as the last time with Leon Ames. Scott Harvey was there to lose. We're taking these hard fights and want to push on, but unfortunately that there's not the kind of the opportunities within the promotion. So the contracts are all up shortly. We'll sit down and we'll have a talk and see where it leads us, because there's other doors and other avenues now for the guys to go. And if it's not a Cage Warriors, then it will be another major promotion.
I suppose how much of that, how much of that is as a result of what you've seen with Paul? Because there are options these days. There's Cage Warriors, there's Oktagon just put on another big show on kind of mainland Europe. Obviously PFL just being in Belfast. Has your opinion, when you're looking at shaping a young fighter's career, how do you see the lay of the land right now in Europe? I guess because traditionally and previously, you would have gone, Cage Warriors is the route here. So has there been a shift in mindset there, or what's the crack?
Well, the thing is, obviously, Cage Warriors is the premier promotion, I feel, in Europe. But ultimately, too, that it's frustrating because the guys, all my fighters are going to me, how's these guys getting fights on other promotions and getting ahead in their career in terms of 4, 5, 6, 7 and 0? Are these guys going to get the opportunities before we do? while we're fighting harder guys. You know what I mean? So like you've got guys who are going around and fighting on smaller events, and all of a sudden they're 6-0 in a year, and we're going like, fuck us, it took us 4 years to get the 4, 5, 6-0. So we just need opportunities. Again, it is hard with big promotion when you're saying a lot of fighters. You can't keep fighters happy. Then you go, where are you? You got to get Italian fighters on Italian shows and whatever else. The problem is now is with us the minute, and what Eoin is having with us is that nobody wants to fight us. I've accepted 3 fights on Cage Warriors Room from Matt Elliott, and all 3 of them turned them down. And all unbeaten guys, 3, 4-0 guys. It's not like they're not puddings, like, you know what I mean? And they're just not, literally, Eoin saying that they'll not fight Academy Ireland guys. They'll not fight Academy Ireland guys.
Do you feel like there's more of an urgency now because of the way like the UFC has gone on Dana White's Contender Series and this kind of shift towards wanting undefeated, finishers? That just seems to be the way it's been going the last couple of years. Is there more of an urgency because of that, or?
Yeah, well, again, it is just, listen, see, the more I'm in this game, the more I realise that it's not about who you fight really anymore. You know what I mean? I see guys who are 5, 6-0 locally, and they're absolute rubbish. You know what I mean? They're absolute dog dirt. And my guys are going, how are these guys getting these opportunities? How do they get these professional fights? I'm training for 4, 5, 6 months and can't get a fight. What is the problem here? And I see promoters, local promoters, offering these same guys a lot of money more than Cage Warriors will give them, and they won't fight our guys locally. They're just padding the records, or they're going across the water in different parts of the world and building the records. I just feel that with my frustration is really the fighters' frustration, because they want to push on. They're getting a wee bit older. They're learning their trade. It's hard to keep them in a mindset of training camp all the time without them breaking. They've got bills to pay. They've got sponsors to keep happy, and their families to feed. So, like in this day and age now, it's like now's the time to straight on. We just need to go and push. And if we're not getting opportunities, then we'll go somewhere where we'll get the opportunities.
Just to purely play devil's advocate here, right? So, like, I imagine the Cage Warriors' response to that would be, well, look, you signed up, you've signed a contract, so you need to honor your contract. But, like, is there anything in there that says we'll get you X number of fights per year, or how does that work?
No, most contracts are standard in terms of with maybe every promotion. It's either 5 fights in 18 months or whatever comes first. So it's 18 months contract or 5 fights within them 18 months. But there's nothing. Now, I do have in certain contracts that, like, so Jared Burns or Brave, that he is, because Brave were notorious for it. When we had guys on the floor, they would give him a fight once every 12 to 18 months, and it wasn't good enough. So I asked to be built in the contract when Sam Brett was there that I needed 3 good fight offers a year, or else we can leave the contract. So they've honoured that. Jared's fighting also on the 12th of July in Bulgaria. He'll be back in as an exclusive phase. But we just need activity.
Who's he fighting?
I forget who the guy. He's 7-5 or something. I forget. I think he's a Polish guy. So we've got a few offers. Obviously, the Mokia fight was on the table a few times, but he's moved on now. So that's not going to happen no more. So George Norwell needs to straight on. He's got a wee bit older. He's got a young family, and that's basically what it is. The boys are seeing Paul getting the success, you know what I mean, and they're seeing all the rest of the guys. Paddy's so frustrated too, seeing all the guys last week sitting front row in the PFL and ultimately getting paid too. Like, they're getting paid, you know what I mean? And like, you put Paddy in with that guy Seán foot, he wouldn't last around.
He seems to be really gunning for a Contender Series, but I've seen him pushing online, like, kind of calling a few of the guys out who aren't matched yet. Is that where his head's at the moment?
Oh, 100%. He's looking down guys. He showed me them yesterday, and he's like, all these guys are fucking rubbish, sir. As Paddy would say, they're all brown sauce. I mean, Paddy's a character, and obviously the Contender Series isn't a great way of getting in the UFC in terms of contractual situations, but Paddy is, like, I just know yourselves, he's a marketing, what I call the marketing dream to have him, and he'll certainly bounce them checks up with his bonuses, because he is going to have a phenomenal career. Like, we just need to get him on them big scenes where people can see him. Like, they'll love him, they'll fall in love with him. Like.
I'm conscious we've gone in a million different directions here, Liam. But we've got Don Shannon here with all of his monetary success off the back of,
and he's distracted by the bling. I think you're distracted by the bling.
It's too shiny.
Off at a different
on my forehead. That's not the light there. That's Liam's jewelry. But I'm very conscious that we've barely talked about the man himself, the man of the hour, Paul Hughes. You guys have had some really big nights as of late in Saudi, in Dubai, but this was the homecoming, right? You've had the nights in Dublin for the last couple of Cage Warriors shows, which to me felt special. The kind of like Paul's swan song with that promotion. This was different. What did it feel like to you on the day of the fight as you got to the arena? What was the atmosphere like for you guys as a team?
It was great. Even that day, we got up. I took a boys in the shakeouts down in the hotel, and then we came back up and we done a wee shakeout with Paul in our gym. He likes to do. That's his warm up, really. That means then when he turns up on the night at the event itself, it's just a matter of just getting your stuff on and a wee bit quick warm up, and he's ready to rock. So we've done a real hard workout in the gym that day. It was good to do it in the gym. What I called it was like, unfortunately, we were cornering Seán whenever what I call Paul was coming from the hotel to the event. We wanted to be there with Paul, but unfortunately, to send John McColgan with him, so I'm sure his head was melting away over in a car. But yeah, so no, when he came in, obviously Paul lifts the room anyway. You know what I mean? Lifts the room, his vibe. He's a great person to be around in terms of the energy behind the scenes. He's all positive. He's just like a guy, just loves fighting. We all thought Pat was behind in the same changing rooms. Again, another great character, and it was brilliant to have all that atmosphere. It really felt like kind of something special was going to happen that night. We have been away. We fought in Saudi. Again, I don't think people give us much of a chance. We fought away again over in Dubai. I don't think people give us much of a chance. So it was good to be home and people actually believe that Paul is the superstar he is, rather than maybe he's just like a one-hit wonder, or maybe he had a lucky night. No, he's here to stay. Like, he is a superstar and he is here to stay. Like.
Speaking about the performance, it was essentially, I think, his first punch of the fight with that left, catching that kick and then throwing that left hook. Can you, I guess, speak to me about that? As something you anticipated prior to the fight, that Moran was going to throw those low kicks and the opportunity was going to be there to catch the kick and throw the hook? Or, if you can just speak about the performance and what you thought of it all.
Yeah, so obviously our training camps, we sit down, me, Paul, and Pat, and Donner and Adam will sit down and we watch those opponents and we'll break it down and visit the kind of game plan. And I say, this is what we're going to see, the kinks in the armour, seeing the habits. And obviously, like, Bruno Miranda is so good at striking, but he's so good at traditional Muay Thai striking that his feet work is what it needs to be. He shows his kicks because he always loads up on them. He steps in to throw a low calf kick with his rear leg, or he does a skip lead body kick, all that type of stuff, or he's showing his hand. So our plan was, and we've drilled it and we've done our classes and our groups for the last 8 weeks, 10 weeks, was make him miss. No success, we call it no success rounds. Just pressure, make him miss, and just take your time, make him miss until we get one read. The thing about the left body kick is, there are probably people who would know that Paul's last two opponents have been southpaws, and they rely an awful lot on their left body kicks or left head kicks. So Paul has been working hard to defend and hard to counter the left body kick for nearly over a year now. So that was going to be Bruno's downfall. He was going to skip and load that lead body kick up, and Paul is so well versed and how to deal with it that he's going to put himself in trouble.
Liam, obviously, you have to put a lot of work in the gym on tactics for the fight. There's also a lot of work done on the mental side of things as well. And obviously, I would consider Paul a mentality monster. He's a real strong mentality. But you as a coach, right, coming into occasions like this, obviously you dealt with it with the first Nurmagomedov fight. You're dealing with it tonight. I can't stop laughing every time you take a drink. You're dealing with it again on a big night like PFL Belfast, and you're going to be dealing with many more big nights to come. What do you do as a coach to kind of prepare Paul for those kind of situations, like that big homecoming in Belfast and the many big nights that are going to come for you and the team as well?
Well, that's the one thing about Paul, is I don't need to deal with all that. With many fighters, I have to deal with the occasion. But Paul, from day that, from back in Cage Warriors and COVID, from all them title fights and Cage Warriors, he is the man on the occasion. He raises up what he's overcame on his personal life. And he like it's like he enjoys it. It's like a reward for all the sacrifice. Like there's not a happier man than Paul Hughes getting into the cage. If you watch all like his ground and pound finishes, the guy is like psychotic. He's smiling while he's punching you in the face. He absolutely loves it. It's not like he feels the pressure. He embodies the pressure. Like it's for me as a coach, like it fills me full of confidence. I go out there in a Paul Hughes corner with not 1 ounce of doubt. When they've done the face-offs, and I seen Bruno for the first time, like beside Paul, I was like, I don't know what this guy's thinking. Like, this guy is not going to get near Paul Hughes. Like, it was just like he just carries that like kind of almost aura about him that he is invincible. And when people back against him, he loves it even more. When we were in the AJ McKee fight, and I tell you all the time, they all think they know until they find out in the cage when the first punch lands. Paul is that a definition of confidence, and for me, I don't need to do nothing with mindset. He's bulletproof, absolutely bulletproof mindset, which means for me and Pat and everywhere else in the corner with him, it's just a privilege to be here and witness greatness.
Liam, the fight, of course, played out absolutely perfectly. The scenes after the fact, I mean, Paul, 10 out of 10 call out of Usman Nurmagomedov to begin with. But the ovation that he got from that crowd was something special. Like I've not witnessed it many times covering the sport in Ireland, and I'm curious to know. I saw Pat did a brilliant interview with Pete after the fact, and Pete mentioned that you were a little emotional after the fight. What was that like for you to see Paul have that performance, but to be embraced by his people in such a manner, especially in light of his identity being called into question not too long ago by the biggest star in the sport?
Yes, well, again, I was very emotional. Very few times I did get emotional, but it was because, like, obviously, to see, like, I remember giving an interview years ago with Cage Warriors and talking about Paul as a person and saying how a nice person he is and how like a loving and giving person he is. He doesn't show that when it's fight night, or it's almost like another persona of himself. And like Paul is just the nicest person in the world. And I actually texted him yesterday saying that sometimes good guys do win. You know what I mean? It is, and like we've been on this journey with no crowd. We're over in COVID in the middle of COVID with Joe McCogan and Paul, and lots of fights with no crowds and whatever else building in his career. It was the first night. Obviously we all sacrificed. I could time away from my family, and he had time with his family. Pat was the same. That night, all my kids were. My wife was there, and that type of stuff. It was the first time that I felt that it was all worthwhile. The first time I felt that Paul really felt that people do love him. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not obviously fighting. It's actually like him as a person. I said to Pete, and I said a couple of photographers, Nicky, Coyle, and all a few other ones, and Paul Brown, and I was saying like they were saying like people really love him. It's not that just showing up and they're cheering for an Irish guy. They love Paul Hughes because he is the most genuine, giving person in the world. He has the time for anybody. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you are. He would go to the end of the earth. And to me, it was a coming home moment in terms of he felt love. You know what I mean? He felt love, genuine care. And a lot of people leaving the event, obviously we were backstage doing the media, a lot of people leaving the event said they were leaving in droves, singing like a football match. You know what I mean? There was no, like, you know what I mean, both sides of the community, bringing them all together. And that's, to me, it was definitely a dawn of a new day in Irish sport in general. And I think, again, there's no better guy than Paul leading the way because he is a genuine person.
Across the Nurmagomedov family, they're not exactly known for giving rematches. I don't think any of the four of them have actually rematched a single opponent in their careers. Do you think, how confident are you that Paul can actually break that mold and get Usman to give him the rematch as much as he deserves it now?
Oh, who the fuck else going to give it to? You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. Like, who else can they give him to? Like, I mean, Paul took it the hardest fight outside of the league format this year, and like, he put him away in 42 seconds. They could have only, if you name the top four, like, you've only got like Shilberley, who would be the only one who you think Paul would fight next. But for Usman, who does Usman fight? And to be perfectly honest, who really cares about Usman outside of his record? Like, he doesn't bring any eyes. He's not really an entertaining fighter. He's got no charisma. There's nothing to him, only the fact that he's what I call associated with the Nurmagomedovs. All the eyes are on Paul. I think PFL know it now. PFL went over when we went over to Dubai and they were really getting behind Usman. But I think they realised then, hold on, Paul's the real star here. Paul's the star issue. And that's very evident here when a lot of people around Paul were actually, like, they were happy to see him this time, where we were kind of left a wee bit out in the cold the last few shows. But I think now that they realise Paul is where the future of the PFL is. He is everything and more that the PFL had envisaged when they signed him. And I think that, like, if they don't make this rematch, they're losing their golden goose here. Like, they're dropping the ball, and it'll be at their mercy, because at the end of the day, like, nothing else can warrant another match like that one in Dubai. Like, nothing else will be in the eyes of the world, the MMA world, not just the PFL world, the MMA world, to their promotion, which is what they always wanted, to be genuine rivals to the UFC. This is their opportunity, regardless of their relationships with the Nurmagomedovs, walking out hand in hand, the belt over their shoulder. Like, that's all friendships forged with success. But let's push this promotion on. If you want it, give Paul a rematch. Do it wherever you want it, because the guy's not getting out of 5 rounds.
You mentioned another man there a few times in this interview, and you give him a little bit of shit. I know you love him deep down. I refer to him sometimes after the great Niall McGrath as Fat Joe McColgan. But, like, I think Pete was talking about this as well, you know, the likes of a Joe, this, you know, for him to have a night like this. But it is people like Joe McColgan, you know, who I would consider one of the nicest guys I've ever covered in MMA in Ireland. He went out on top. He got the Cage Warriors title. He never quite had, like, a moment like this in Belfast in front of his hometown crowd. But I think I'm right in saying that it's people like Joe McColgan who maybe haven't got, you know, the big send off in retirement in their career that kind of paved the way for nights like this to happen, right?
Yes, well, like, Joe's obviously heavily involved with the fight team. Believe it or not, a funny story. We were messaged, me and Pat, about 6-7 weeks ago. Asked him, was Joe McColgan available for NFL or PFL Belfast? Believe it or not. And where he posted an album, says the guy is 100 kilo and he's diabetes now. But Joe is, like, when he won the Cage Warriors belt, a wee bit like a Paul, but with no crowd. Joe walked onto the bus and everyone stood up on the bus, all the Cage Warrior staff, the fighters, everybody, and give him a round of applause, because he is like the guy who done well, a good guy who done well. Unfortunately, his career came a bit too late in his life. He's got a career, like, I don't even know what he works at. We call him Chandler Bing, because nobody knows what the fuck he works at. Just works for numbers. He's a number cruncher. But apparently his job more important and better than everyone else's job, apparently. But what I call, he was going through a transition in his life. He was just married. They were trying for a family. So at the end of the day, like, it just came a bit too late. I think if the UFC came right after, he would have stayed on. But the fact that they were looking them to defend the belt, and he was just even like, well, not for this type of money. I'm going to push on with my career. But yeah, I would imagine Joe McColgan on that type of night, or a born entertainer, like, I know, a real, like, the toughest hard like snob you'll ever meet in your life. Like, I mean, he is as tough as they come, loves the wars, entertainer. Like, there's nothing better than an Irish crowd to see what Joe McColgan really brought to the table. Unfortunately, his last 2 or 3 fights were behind closed doors with COVID, and we never got to experience that. But at the end of the day, he buried out when he was happy, and that's all I want as a coach and a friend, that he leaves the sport happy.
Absolutely, Liam. We've taken up so much of your time, but I do have a couple more questions before we let you go. How confident are you that the rematch happens next with Usman Nurmagomedov? Scale of 1 to 10.
11. Has to happen. It's going to happen in September, October. It's going to happen. Put it like that. It's definitely going to happen. I'm already making arrangements for what I'm going to do in September and October, because it's without a doubt that we've been promised behind the scenes that it has to happen, especially the way, as you say, the way that fight ended. It wasn't like he dragged out a close decision victory. He went out and put a guy who just beaten Patricky Pitbull 3 rounds. He went out and put him away in 42 seconds, was first punch. Believe me, Usman is running scared, as Paul said, but he will not, he cannot. The only way he gets out of this is if he fucks off to the AFC because he's gone through the door.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
The only way he gets out of this fight.
I was going to ask you that because there has been talk, obviously, of him not wanting to move over there because Islam is in the lightweight division. Islam obviously moving up to the welterweight division now. You know, if that were to happen, would it be a little bit bittersweet for you and the team not to go and take it from Nurmagomedov? You know, obviously, if he does go, Paul's right in line there. I mean, he's definitely going to be fighting for the title one way or another. But I think what you, and I would imagine what Paul wants and what everybody else wants, is that rematch against Nurmagomedov and to take that title from him.
Yeah, so if that's the case and he does, Islam's moved up to 77, he'll fight JDM next, and he goes to the AFC under the basis that now he can pursue his career in the 70 kilo division. And we will fight for the belt next. It'll have to be someone like Shibboleth, actually, it has to be next time. That's the only other one, the relevant person, top 5. Paul put him to sleep, no problem. So we will get Usman sooner or later, whether it be in the PFL or we have to go and hunt them down in the AFC. We're getting that loss back. As we did the Jordan Vachanik fight, we will get that loss back one way or another.
That was going to be my next question, actually, is will we see Paul Hughes at some point in his career fight in the UFC?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, like a PFL or a great promotion, as you can all see, like a great promotion. So end of the day, we're building a great relationship with them. We'll see what happens, see how the promotion develops. Obviously, like Paul is career driven, as his decisions have proven so far. We'll see what happens, but again, I wouldn't rule it out. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like you want to be the best in the world, so people have question marks. He's not the best in the world. Then maybe that's something that we'll approach down the line. And you never know. Like he could go over and be the first ever, like kind of multi, like a Bellator, PFL, UFC combined champion.
For many, many years now, I feel like anytime you see any of us in the media at events or anything like that, the common quote that I feel like I hear from yourself and especially from Pat is you guys just don't know yet. You don't know how good Paul Hughes is. Now, I would argue that the world over the past 12 to 18 months have a better idea of how good Paul Hughes is. But my question is, have we seen the best Paul Hughes yet?
No, I don't think we have. I think Paul is like, obviously the last few fights he's shown glimpses of what he is. I think like you seen the Usman fight, the first his reaction was he had more in him. The more he gets these fights, the more activity he has, the more he goes into one training camp to one training camp to one training camp. Like I was over with Reese in the UFC and the Apex, and one of the UFC fighters, stopped me and says, "You're Paul Hughes' coaches." Like Paul, he is the man. Like this is not just in our gym. This is every gym he does it in. And the thing is, the difference between Paul and a lot of people who came before him is that they get to the top and then they think they know it all. Then they have people around them who are just there to accommodate them. Paul is in the gym learning every day. He sits down with his coaches and listens to game plans. Not only whether he's in here or he's in Kilcliff, like we're sending videos, we're breaking down fighters, breaking down stuff, do this in your training, try this. Always introducing new stuff in between training camps. So like he's only 28 years of age, just 28. He just turned 28. So there's like loads more years development. But the most thing about that is he wants to develop. He knows there's more. There's more behind him. And he knows he has to. They get better too as well as the levels go up. But the good thing is that he's not just settled where this is me, I'm ready, and I can take everyone on. He's hungrier to get stronger. He's hungrier to get fitter, and he's hungry to get better.
Liam, I can't thank you enough. The rematch will be the biggest fight in PFL history. Liam Sugar Shannon, who joining the show today. I don't know if we can afford you the next time to come on. This may be the last ever time.
I have one more request for the man, Shando. If you can, right, pick up that drink, lose that straw, and naked. That's the perfect way to round out it. Get that into you. Get that into you. Cheers.
Shando. Shannon.
Yup. Yes. Finished.
As Corey McLaughlin would say, Eva!
Yeah, it was a better finish than Paul against Miranda, that one was. So I would love it. Always appreciate the time, Liam. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you very much, lads.
Thanks,
lads.
All right, boys, we have a couple of things to touch base on here before we wrap it up, and let's talk about some of the results and the actions that's taken place since we've been last on. We'll look a little bit ahead to what's going to be happening before we come on again and chat. Jack Maguire, Auld Triangle Choke winner of 2024, picked up another win with another Auld Arm Triangle. I think he's doing himself a good bit of justice in trying to win the road, where there's a little bit of skepticism coming from the boys. Was it? Are we going?
I'm wondering, do we, when it suits us, I feel like we say, yeah,
I think if there's a triangle in the finish, lads, we have to call it an Auld Arm Triangle.
The outflying triangle.
Is it eligible for a nomination for the draw? Probably not.
I don't know. I feel like we should celebrate it.
Yeah.
But does it actually meet the criteria to get in? I don't know.
Yeah. It's I don't know. We'll see. We'll take that, as they say in work. We'll take that offline. Jack Maguire picked up.
This is the most Jack Maguire fucking fight of all time, by the way, isn't it? Just like a completely random show that you find out about an hour before. He probably wanted nobody to watch it.
Yeah,
just leave him alone.
But he had a first round win over Felipe Salmon via arm triangle in the first round. Evan Horgan also fought in that card. He was defeated by Isa Yassiev by a rear naked choke in the first round as well. This past weekend, big win, and very happy for Jordan Bradshaw to be finally getting a spin out. I remember chatting to him at Cage Legacy 23 last year as well, and he was chomping at the bit. He could not get matched. Things were not working out too good in terms of him getting off to a good start in his professional career. He got in there, Aries 30, picked up a really good unanimous decision win over Wahab Ibrahim. And it's great to see Jordan there. Like Team C-Mac Jim flying it at the minute. And, he's obviously delighted to get in there and get the win as well. I've seen the reaction after the fight as well. He was hyped up after it, and understandably so. He's been chomping at the bit to try and get in there. Fair play and a good win for him. Paddy Rutledge was over there in WOW FC. He defeated Richard Jacome via KO in round 2. We also had some action by the way of Denis Frimpong and Oktagon 71. We got to stop and have a little bit of a chat about this against. He picked up a TKO win in round 3 against Arian Topali, and I think this was another phenomenal win. Obviously we chatted and we gave Denis the kudos for his win over Frank in his last fight. I think this was just as an impressive win as well. A lot of bad blood coming into this. The emotions were really there for both Denis and for Adrian as well. This fight started at 100 miles an hour, and my immediate thoughts were, who is going to last this pace? Because it's pretty much unsustainable. And it was Denis that lasted it as well, Andy. I mean, phenomenal win. As I tweeted out, I think coming in his amateur ranks and coming into his professional, Denis is known as the trash talker, and he bigs up fights. But I think as his professional career has developed, he's obviously developed into a very, very, very good fighter as well. And I put it on Instagram, not just a trash talker. He's picking up solid wins. I believe that was his 4th win in a row. He's definitely going places, and this was a tough fight for Denis, and he passed it very well, and it didn't go all his own way either. Obviously, we found himself on his back at a good second round, but Topali was wrecked, tired off of the face. So I would argue, Andy, I don't know what you think about that. The old trash talk might have worked this time around. Maybe it works every time, but definitely this time, because he got Topali fighting very emotionally, and he lost his gas tank, and Denis finished him in round 3 early with a barrage of strikes and ground and pound. It was really great stuff from Denis Frimpong.
We're on the same page, Ian. I was so impressed by Denis in this fight, and exactly as you're saying, like when you kind of look at Denis initially, you just see a trash talker, and then you're like, okay, well, how is he actually going to get on? And he had a tough fight against looking back, a really, really talented prospect in George Staines, who continues to soar in Oktagon and had a win on the same card. And then, like, he fights against a couple of lads who maybe aren't the greatest records, and you kind of look at it that way, and it's like, okay, well, what is Denis Frimpong? What's he going to be? But my God, has he commanded, and he should command the respect of anyone who's watched that fight just now. And I think you're right. Like, he wears on these lads with his trash talk, but then you see him after the fact, and it's all respect, and I like that. Because like, you can trash talk people, and then you can be a dick after the fight, and I don't like seeing that. But I think there is a place for it when you can put it aside after and show the respect to you. And like, he was having the crowd applaud for Topolai after the fight, and to get into the fight itself, he was on his back for the vast majority of that first round. He was, he really had to dig deep. In the second round, Topolai really poured it on as well. But as that round wore on, Denis started to come alive. He started to land. And in that third, like the second round, I was like, as you were saying, like, who's going to wilt first? And I wouldn't say that either of them wilted, but I think Denis started to show that dog in him, as people say. And I think you're on mute there, Ian, by the way. But
I think Topali definitely was showing signs. Even after the first round, he was taking a lot of deep breaths, and it was like, sometimes, I admired Denis's patience there as well. He didn't panic in it, and I was wondering, should he be looking to try and keep it on the feet in the second round? And I think he did that excellently. There's a time when you see someone that's getting tired, you can jump on that, and you could maybe not finish him, and then you can make yourself tired. But I think I really admired Denis's fight IQ to kind of, bring it into round 3 and then take him out on the feet as well, and just the shot selection as well. And at that stage,
the accuracy,
Topali was dead beat, but you got to put him away too. We've seen that plenty of times inside the cage as well, with guys that are deathly tired, and sometimes a fighter can panic or they can rush things. Didn't happen with Denis. It was phenomenal.
And it was like, in my mind, he broke him. He broke him in that fight. I feel like he put money in the bank early on in the first round, but especially in that second round with the shots to the body. And I feel like he was wearing Topolai down, wearing him down, and then there was nothing. Like, I think Denis upped it a gear in the third round, and Topolai had no answer for him, and Denis just absolutely destroyed him in that, the opening sequence in that third round. The spinning kick to the body, everything was landing. His accuracy was brilliant. He didn't look like he looked like he was speeding up in the fight, and just absolutely brutal shots that he was landing at, and ultimately dropped him and got the finish. A ferocious finish in the end. Like, I know that the final blows, where it was kind of just coffin nails at the end, as he was kind of on top of him, but it was the shots that he landed on the feet to send him to the canvas. That was what ended the fight in my eyes. And an outpouring of emotion from Denis Frimpong after the fact. We see him being the braggadocious trash talker, but I thought it was brilliant that he was a bit vulnerable in there. He showed his emotion. He spoke about the fact that his partner, his wife, I think is 9 months pregnant. And look, it also highlights again, he was essentially pleading for a bonus, and it underscores the nature of the fight game, where you have lads who are going in there and putting their bodies on the line for very little money here. So I actually didn't. I don't know. I don't think he did. Did he not, Caoilte?
No, Papek got it in the end.
Okay.
It's a shame.
Papek, who had a huge KO in the main event. He a thunderous right hand on Langer, who could potentially be Will Fleury's next opponent. I know Will was saying that he kind of didn't do enough on the mic afterwards to command the title shot, but be very interested. That was one, and obviously that should be on Irish people's radar. If you haven't seen that, go watch that main event, because that could be Will Fleury's next opponent right there. But yeah, an amazing night for Denis Frimpong. He backed it up. He continues to back it up, and Robin Frank into Aryan Topolai, that's 2 big wins back to back. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in title contention in maybe 12 to 18 months in Oktagon.
Do you think we'll see a Caoilte? What do you think? Obviously, that fight was a catchweight 163. You're kind of in between everything there. But I mean, we've seen Denis get down to lightweight before. Like, if he can get down to 155 Caoilte safely, he's a real force of nature down in that division.
Yeah, I don't think getting down to 155 will be a massive issue. He is going to take a break now. He mentioned after the fight, obviously, he's going to have a few months where I think he mentioned he's
He'll be on the bottle and the nappies now, so he will for a few months.
Exactly now. So he's gonna have a few adjustments in life over the next few months. But I do agree he could be in title contention, because if you can look at the record, and I think nowadays you can forget about those stupid fights against the likes of, do you know, the ones that are not, I wouldn't even call them journeymen, the ones that are pulled in, the ones that we don't even think about. You can just look at them and not even care anymore, because he's proven himself now that he can compete with these top prospects. You look at the lads like in his last fight, Robin Frank, now top alight. These are top prospects that Oktagon were getting behind, and he's improving with every fight, and he's showing different dynamics in his game and different aspects of his game in every single fight now. Like in this one, we could see that he doesn't crack under pressure. You can see that he can come out the other side against a lad who's absolutely going 100 miles an hour from the very beginning, and then still come out on top. And this time with the finish, and the finish is something we hadn't seen from before. He was being criticised quite a bit in commentary for not finishing fights when he probably could have previously in the Oktagon, and now he's come out and he's finished the fight in very impressive fashion too. So if he can kind of keep that momentum up, build on these performances, stepping up to the plate like he's done every single occasion, then I wouldn't have much doubt that he could find himself in title contention. He's in a co-main event, and a lot of that, I don't want to say his performances have been good. He's talked his way to a lot of these as well, because he's created a buzz around him. He's got, like, he's popular there. He's made people interested. He could, having that type of personality, the profile, and being able to build fights the way he does, like him or loathe him, it gets people interested, and he can talk himself into a big fight by just pissing off the wrong person, or the right person in his case. So yeah, 12, 18 months, no problem. I think he could, if he can keep it up, he can get a title shot, I'd say.
He seems to have a very good ability as well of pissing people off in a certain region or a certain fan base in the lead up to a fight, but then winning them over after the fact.
Yeah, I was going to bring up that point as well, Andy. It's like you can trash talk and you can get the people's interest through that as well. But I think when you show that level of respect after the fact, is that, at the end of the day, this is the fight game. You're going to have some shit talkers. They have to do that to build fights, and Denis has done it perfectly. But even better, I feel that he's handled himself very well after wins and after losses, and I think that will get him more kind of support, I believe, as well.
Oktagon should give him a bonus also. You call me an event, you put on a show like that, like just do another bonus.
Yeah,
but even the fact that
you're selling out all these stadiums around there, I mean, come on.
He's risked missing the birth of his own child to, and I know fighters take risks. He's risked missing the birth of his child to go to a fight, puts on a performance, wins like that, and pleads for a bonus because of how expensive they are. You'd think nearly just for being sound, they'd at least throw him a few quid. Hopefully they have, but I agree with you there, Andy.
100%. A couple of other things to talk about before we wrap it up, lads. A couple of shows that are taking place between now and the next episode. We will start with Iúr Fighting Championships back on the 25th of May. Really good card as well, as always, that Decky puts on up there. This one's kind of snuck up. Things are going 100 miles an hour in Irish mixed martial arts, and this one is sneaking up. Ben Mann, Cian McCartan for the flyweight title will top the bill there. Couple of good fights on that, Caoilte. Does anyone really stick out to you, ones that you're looking forward to? I know I obviously mentioned the main event, but there's a couple of other good ones down along the lines as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones here that I really like. That James Wallace and Michael Cartman fight at featherweight, an absolute cracker. Morgan Hines and Jordan White. The one on the undercard, which I really fancy now, is the Henry Lecca against Rian Dunleavy at bantamweight. I think Henry's been really, he's been a real prospect for a while now, especially in the last year. So, and Rian Dunleavy's really kind of emerging onto the scene quite a bit now as well. So I think those two are ones we should be watching this year and next year as well. And I like that they're meeting on this card. Paul Fitzgerald, never in a boring fight. He fights Russ George. And
I'm looking forward to that one. That's a rematch from the Premier show back in Kilkenny. Remember they did the
controversial decision.
Yeah, controversial one. Yeah. So that's a bit about it. And of course, lads, I mean, you've missed the biggest fight on the card. I mean, what?
Very
Main event. I mean, we're talking Team Stevenson's Jared Ryan fighting for the bantamweight title here against Jason Sreenan. I mean, clearly that he's entitled.
Look, things haven't been going right. All I'll say to Jared,
he's on Team Stevenson.
Andy, all I'll say to Jared Ryan ahead of this fight is that it's not too late to come over to Team O'Neill or even Team De Barra as well. And I don't know. There's a bit of a.
I'm down the middle now. I wish Jason Sreenan all the best. I wish Jared Ryan all the best. I'm just saying. Team Stevenson, you get a little bit of a extra spotlight if you're Team Stevenson.
Love it. Let's look at a couple of other fights that are coming up. We have Moriu Georgie, who's fighting over at Fight to One / Brave. So is that kind of a co-promotion there? Yeah. Over in Tenerife in Spain. That's on the 30th of May. The 31st of May, we have a big Cage Warriors card. Cage Warriors 189 in Rome. We had 2 fights listed. Now we have 3 after that interview with Chando. Ryan Shelley against Simone Diana. Good to see that they got Ryan a quick third round there. He must have been devastated after not being able to get on that Dublin show. Good job on Cage Warriors getting them back and fighting again. Big fight for him. Gary Rooney is coming into Cage Warriors. Brilliant to see Gary donning the yellow gloves. He takes on Enrico Di Ganghi. Looking forward to that. And obviously, as Shando said as well, Paddy McCurry will fight on that card. No details yet, but I'd say young Stevenson now will be doing a bit of digging in between now and when this podcast comes out. We might have a few answers.
Very, very lazy about that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's tough one.
It's just not worth the effort.
It's not easy to try and break fights. I've broken a few, not as much as yourself now, Andy, but
it's just not worth the effort.
And then what finished me is when I broke a couple of fights for the fucking PFL, and then they didn't happen. Like I was told directly. Boom.
Fake news, O'Neill. That
finished me. But I guess, look, that wraps up episode 84. Great episode. Great to be back again talking all things Irish MMA. Plenty to discuss again on the next episode. I'm looking forward to getting back at it with the lads in a couple of weeks. If you like what you hear today, lads, and you're still listening, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, give us a 5-star review on Spotify, a comment, even call Andy a prick on the comments if you want.
Actually, yeah, I only want you to comment if you're calling. Oh, well, you might get flagged for YouTube though. Yeah. Just, I don't know, come up with something that is insulting to me.
Be friendly, insulting. Don't go too far. And
no, make me hate my life.
I think you're totally immune to negative comments coming your way now, Andy. I think you've come full.
Dylan Duke was putting.
Poor Dylan. We love you, Dylan. Come on, don't be mad at us. Don't be mad. Like the Tupac said, don't be mad at you. Don't be mad.
It's all love. It's all love.
It is all love from the Tupac. And it was a pity that he wasn't on the PFL card as well. You know what I mean? So I can understand when people are getting the spotlight. You want to be a part of big nights like that too. So hopefully PFL do get him matched up, do get him out again pretty soon. And it's all love from here, as always, with Dylan. And hopefully it's the same back around. And I guess...
Oh, it is. Don't you worry.
It is. I guess all is left is for the Indonesian prince here, Caoilte de Barra. You haven't done it in a while. You're due on.
I need to have one moment.
Waiting for it.
Shando's fucking get up. I mean, what? Jesus, that was sensational. I just feel like we need to acknowledge that one.
No problem. I'll allow it.
Go on, you can hand off to Caoilte there now.
I think you need to hand it off to me, and then I'll hand it off to Caoilte.
And now all that's left to do now is to hand it off to Eoin, who will hand it off to Caoilte.
And now all is left for me to do is for Caoilte. I know you fucked me up now. All is left for us to do is for Caoilte to see us out.
Yeah, you too. I was listening while I was on my holidays, the last episode, and the accusations of me ghosting, and then the somehow nearly butchering of actually didn't actually butcher the ending. So I give you a lot of credit, but it's good to be back. I had no signal to even speak to you, but it was I felt very disconnected from Irish MMA for 2 weeks, so it's nice to feel like I'm back again. And Gur míle maith agah, agus slán go fóill.